Hello, everybody, and welcome to TOEFL preparation course. This is the listening section. In this section, we're going to be looking at overall information of the listening TOEFL test and, the listening part. And the book will be in PDF in the description for you to download it and be able to watch these videos and prepare for the TOEFL course. Okay, so let's begin. The listening part, like it says here, consists of a number of different types of listening passages, and each are followed by some questions. Now, all of the TOEFL, this you got to know from the beginning, all TOEFL is multiple choice, okay? So you have 4 options. I may be repeating this in the following videos, but from the 4 options that you have in multiple choice, 2 are incorrect, so completely incorrect. 1 is there to confuse you, and 1 is the correct one. All right, that's more or less the format for multiple choice, which is the format for the TOEFL course or for the TOEFL test. Okay, so it tests your language skills, like it says here. This is for the paper and the computer. This book is for the paper and the computer test, but we're going to be looking at the information for the paper test. Okay, so let's continue to what type of passages we're going to be looking at. There are short dialogues, first of all, like it says right here in number 1. Short dialogues are 2-line dialogues between 2 speakers, right? Each followed by a multiple choice question. So 2 people talk, and then the narrator or the person will ask, what does the man mean? Or what does the woman say? Or what does the man imply? Or what does the woman, what will the woman do next, for example? So you will listen to each of these short dialogues and then answer the questions in the recording, right? And on your test booklet. So these are 30 short dialogues, and they are 30, and there are 30 questions for each of those 30 short dialogues, right? In total, you're looking at more or less 50 questions in the listening part of the TOEFL, right? There are 50 questions. Grammar, which is the second part, we'll look at that in the next video. Grammar has 40 and reading also has 50. So you're going to be answering a total of about 140 questions. I may do the pre-diagnostic test for you to take and for you to be able to know your TOEFL score more or less in the upcoming videos. Okay, now that's the first part of the listening. The listening part divides itself into these 3 parts. The first one, short dialogues. The second one, long conversations, where you're looking at 60 to 90-second conversations on casual topics between 2 people, right? And in this one, you will listen to each of the long conversations and answer questions, right? So it says there are about 2 conversations and 7 to 9 questions that accompany this in the part B of the TOEFL listening section, right? So 7 to 9 questions, we're already looking at the 37, 38, 39 questions, right? And these 2 conversations. So these are longer conversations. You have to pay more attention, and we're going to be looking at the skills to be able to do this effectively. Last but not least, we have the talks. The talks, I think, may be the most difficult because these are 60 to 90-second monologues. So one person talks and talks and talks, and you have to answer questions regarding the talk, right? It's like it says here, you will listen to each lecture. So it's a lecture, es una cátedra. Basically, la persona da una cátedra, right? And you have to choose the correct answer. So there are 3 lectures, it says here, and this involves from 11 to 13 questions. This is part C of the paper TOEFL test for the listening section. So this is in general the overview of the test, right? Okay. If you want to pause the video, take notes, go ahead. All right. Now, what are the types of strategies or general strategies, very briefly, that we can check out for the listening comprehension part? Let's see. First of all, be familiar with directions. It says right here. So know the directions, right? Every TOEFL test has the same directions. So if you know the directions, you don't have to spend time reading the directions, and you can use the time to answer the questions well, it's kind of difficult in the listening because you have to wait for the audio, but in the other sections it's easier, right? So be completely familiar with the directions right before the day of the test. Listen carefully to the passages, so concentrate fully on what the speakers are saying, right? Know where the easier and more difficult questions are generally found. So this is a very useful tip. As the test progresses, it goes from easy to difficult. This means that the first couple of questions in each section and in each part are easy, and the last questions are the most difficult ones, okay? Be familiar with the pacing, so how fast, how much time you have between questions. You have approximately 12 seconds to answer each question, right? So be prepared for the next question, right? There's a tip. There are multiple tips we're going to be looking at, but there's one where if you have time, you can look ahead and read the possible answers, right, before the audio starts. So that may help some people. It may not help other people. Never leave any answer blank, right? Because if you leave it blank and you run out of time, that's a zero, right? That question is a zero. So it's better to have 25% probability if you guess that it's correct than a 0% probability if you don't guess, right? So finish the test. It doesn't matter if you don't know, just finish it, right? There's no penalty for guessing. Exactly. And if you have time, remaining time, look ahead, right? Or look back. So you can use this as a tip to either look ahead or look back. So these are the general tips for the listening comprehension part. Okay, so then there's the information for the computer, the general information for the computer as well. Okay, and here we're going to start with the short dialogues, which we're really going to get into once we start with skill 1. So this basically has the information for part A of the test. Okay, so before we continue with skill 1, let's look very briefly at an example of a short dialogue on the paper TOEFL test. So for this, we have to remember that there are how many of these questions again? Does anybody know? 30, right? 30 short dialogues that we will hear. Okay, so for example, the man says, like right here, this physics course couldn't be any harder. And then the woman says, I'll say, right? And the narrator asks, what does the woman mean? A, she has something to say to the man. B, she doesn't think the physics course is hard. C, she agrees with the man. Or D, she'd like to discuss the physics course. Which do you think it is? It's C, right? She agrees with the man. I'll say is an expression which means I agree with you, right? I'll say, if you say, I don't like this movie, I'll say, or I like this movie, I'll say, right? So the correct answer in this case would be C. She agrees with the man, and that's what she means, right? So as we can see in this dialogue, like it says here, when the woman says, I'll say, she is showing that she agrees with the man, right? Therefore, answer C is correct. So the procedure for the short dialogues, which we're going to be looking at skill 1, is first of all, as you listen to each short dialogue, focus on the second line. The second line is very important because generally the answer is found in the second line. Keep in mind that the correct answer is probably a restatement, very important. We're going to be looking at this in skill 2 and 3. A restatement means that it is the same, but with different words, right? They use synonyms. The meaning is the same, but there are different words being used. Okay, number 3, Keep in mind that certain structures and expressions are tested regularly in the short dialogues. So structures such as passives, negatives, wishes, conditions. So you do need to know grammar. You need to know what is passive voice, the conditionals, right? Negatives. We're going to be looking at that more in depth, but you need to have an idea. What is passive voice? What are the conditionals? So look back in your notes, in your English notes for this information, or watch some videos, look it up on the internet, study this. Functional expressions such as agreement, uncertainty, suggestion, surprise, idiomatic expressions also. Then number 4, keep in mind that these questions generally progress, like we already saw, from easy to difficult. So 1 to 5 will be the easiest, and 26 to 30 will be the hardest. So if you see that 1, 2, 3 are very easy, that's normal. They're supposed to be easy, okay? And number 5, read the answers and choose the best answer to each question. Remember to answer each question, right? Even if you are not sure of the correct response, never leave any answers blank, right? Okay. Now you can pause the video at any time for you, or rewind it to check out some things that I said in case you have questions. Okay, let's finish looking at the general strategies for the short dialogues before we start with them. Okay, number 6 says, even if you do not understand the complete dialogue, you can still find the answer, right? If you only understand a few words or ideas in the second line, choose the answer that contains a restatement. Not the same words, but that they say the same thing with different words. We're going to be looking at this in skills 2 and 3, right? You want the answer that has different information apparently, right? But it means the same thing. If you do not understand anything at all in the second line, choose the answer that sounds, very, very important, that sounds the most different. TOEFL knows that you're going to choose the answer that sounds similar, right? If you say, for example, I heard something about research, so it's church, right? We're going to be looking at an example like that. That's an incorrect answer, right? Okay, and obviously this goes hand in hand with never choose an answer because it sounds like what you heard in the dialogue. So you want answers that are different, right? Be prepared. Number 7, you only have 12 seconds between questions. Okay, so I hope all of this information is useful for you. And before we start with skill number 1, focus on the last line, I recommend you download the book, check it. You can see that the page here for the PDF is on my screen. It's page 48, or you can look at it from the book. I think it's 27, 28, something like that. So check out the book. Next class, I'm going to be explaining grammar or the structure section, and then reading, and then we will jump into skill number 1 of listening. So we're going to be looking at these videos in the way that the course is supposed to be. First listening, then grammar, reading, then listening, grammar, reading, listening, grammar, reading. So I hope you like this video. Hit like, subscribe, and thank you for watching it till the end. I'll see you next class. Bye.